Do I think judges should be held accountable? Yes. Absolutely, unequivocally, 100% yes. Everyone else in this sport is held accountable for what happens. Whether it's the ref, whether it's coaches, whether it's the corners, whether it's the fighters, everyone is held accountable for their jobs. So we're not asking for special treatment when we say that the judges have to be as well. And it only makes sense. Now, I do want to start this conversation by saying we never appreciate, recognise or realise when the judges do a good job or a right job. So, of course, we're going to overinflate when they do a bad job, but it has been happening more than frequently quite recently. And a massive topic of conversation at the moment is open scoring. Now, if you follow Errol Hawani, if you watch the MMA Hour, if you have him in any capacity of your social media platforms, you will know he is a big advocate for open scoring. So why not jump into that topic of discussion? Because I've got a couple of thoughts and feelings on it. Now, I want to start off by saying I came into the conversation very neutral. I was happy to hear either side. I was personally for it, but I wanted to hear why people were against it. And as of yet, I have not been convinced. I have not heard one reasonable argument of why it shouldn't be there, apart from the fact that people are over romanticizing it as it's fighting, it's fight to the death, it's what it's always been. It's a little bit of a washed out, it's a little bit of a played out argument now. I think especially coming into 2022 and trying to evolve and grow this sport, which is still very young. Which takes me on to my next point, MVP. MVP came onto the MMA Hour and he said he wasn't a massive advocate for it, but there was one reason above all other reasons of why we need open scoring, and it's the best reason that I've heard. What was it? When you are sitting there watching the fights and you have a casual, a neutral, a non-fan come over, scroll past, or they're flicking on the TV, it's a Saturday night and they flick on BT Sport or ESPN if you're watching this stateside, they're watching a grappling exchange, they've never seen MMA before, and they ask, who's winning? Of course you can sit there and you can tell the person, but when they're by themselves and they have no grasp or concept on the sport, there's no answer for that, which just means they get disinterested very quickly. So if we're looking to bring on new fans to this sport, if we're looking to grow it, evolve it, bring in new eyeballs, bring in more money, more sponsorships, more deals, better opportunities for fighters, more fighter development, better sports facilities. If we're looking to grow this as a whole, we have to have open scoring for the simple fact that people that have never seen the sport have no idea what is going on. If you are a sports fan and you're watching this video, you can think back a number of times to when you've been flicking on the TV and a random sport that maybe you don't watch a lot of is on. And it catches your engagement for about 5 minutes because you can see the score and it's fairly close and maybe it's coming towards the end of the set or the end of the game or it's the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes and you want to see how it sort of plays out. We've all been there, or at least I've been there a lot of times. But in MMA, you don't have that. So people get disinterested very quickly, especially in a world where people are scanning through things as quickly as possible. And if they don't have that anchor point, if they don't have that recognition to something, they get disengaged so quickly. So I think that definitely needs to be factored in. Now, there's a million other points, and I want to hear your points on it, but I won't dive into it too much. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued why people fight against it because it makes perfect sense to me. These fighters have so much on the line. It's not just 50% of their purse, but they're fighting for their careers quite often. They're fighting to not be barraged with abuse online, which is a harsh reality of this sport. There's so many factors that go into this. There's so many things that we have to consider that I don't feel like the argument of it's what we've always done, it builds anticipation at the end of the fight. I don't think that's good enough anymore, and I don't think it's strong enough of an argument to overcome open scoring. Now, can I see it being implemented in the UFC anytime soon? Absolutely not. Do I think it should be? Absolutely. And do I think that judges should be more accountable? Absolutely. Now, Dominic Cruz made a good point, and I'll make this my last point on this. Dominic Cruz made a good point of who's training the judges, who trains those, Who do we know who the judges are and their recent history, and have they fought and have they got experience, and do they interact with the fighters? Because there are a lot of nuances around that. It's a lot of a responsibility to hold when you're looking at the sport of MMA. Of course, the violence that goes into it and what rests in the balance between loss and win. We need high level judges. So that's a topic of conversation for a different time. But yes, they need to be held accountable for sure.